Yo, what's going on? In this video, I'm going to be going over how you can price your agency services. Now, key point here, you do not want to do 5K per month, right? You want to move away from selling a retainer-based service, okay? And I know it sounds counterintuitive, right? It sounds nice to get paid every single month for the services you're providing, but in reality, there's a better way to do it, okay? Because when you're thinking about your pricing model, right, there should be three things that you're looking to optimize for, okay? Number one, increase your customer lifetime value, right? Collect as much money as you can in the lifespan that you're actually working with the customer, okay? Number two, increase the amount of cash you can collect up front, okay? And I'll go over more why in detail, but essentially the more cash you can collect up front, the more you can reinvest directly back in your acquisition, right? If you're running ads, it's gonna be huge for you because if you can get a lot of money up front, then you can put a good portion of that money back into ads and, kind of push your acquisition machine. And also you want to maximize your close rate. You want to have a pricing model that people are actually willing to say yes to, okay? And if you do these three things, right? If your pricing model, okay, is adjacent with these three outcomes, then you're going to make a lot of money. But the problem is, right, with normal X amount of month or X per month retainers, number one, you have a low customer lifetime value. Because a lot of times, right, with a typical agency service, okay, let's take a marketing agency, for example, right? Where you're running ads as part of the fulfillment model for your clients, right? A lot of times it's hard to get your clients results early, right? It's very hard to get your clients results in month number one, even month number two, because oftentimes you have to actually understand their current business, right? You have to understand their unique mechanisms. You have to understand their case studies, right? You might have to do different research in terms of targeting, right? And market research with what else is working, okay? A lot of times that can take a few months, right? Before they find the winning creative, before they find the winning targeting, right? Before Meta's algorithm can actually learn what is working, right? And what people are responding to. So a lot of times it's very hard to get clients results quick, okay? And a lot of times if they don't see a quick win with your program, they're going to assume you can't actually fulfill on the promises you're making, when in reality, you just need more time. Problem number two is that you don't collect that much cash up front. So let's say you're charging something like $3,000 a month, right? Pretty standard for an agency, okay? You're only getting $3,000 up front, right? And if your customer acquisition cost, if your CAC is something like $1,500, then you're only getting a 2x return on the front end, okay? And if you're paying staff, softwares, you might even just be breaking even or maybe even losing money on the front end, right? When you're actually getting paid from that client, okay? And we can see what happens when we do that, right? When you are pricing monthly, okay? Then what happens is you have a minimal amount of money to reinvest back in your acquisition, right? Minimal amount of money to put into the ad machine, okay? Which is going to mean limited lead flow, right? And because you have less clients, you're going to have lower case studies, right? And you're also going to have weaker ad creatives because you can't speak about the results that you've gotten in your ad. So you're overall just seen as less trusted in the market. You're seen as a bloodsucker. You're seen as a leech. You're just seen as someone that can't actually get the results for your dream client that you know you can get, right? All because you're pricing monthly. Right now, go into how you can go about fixing that, okay? But the third problem is that you have nothing to fall back on if the prospect pushes back on price, right? So if you're charging 5K a month, okay, and your prospect is just like, I don't think it's worth 5K a month, then what are you gonna do? You can't do anything, right? The only thing you can do is just lower how much you're charging per month, right? Which is immediately lowers your frame as a business owner, right? It makes them trust you less. It makes you seem like a cuck. It makes you seem like someone who can't be trusted, okay? But there's a solution to this. And that solution, okay, is doing something called a project period, right? Now, full disclaimer, I did not name it this, right? It's something that I've been doing in my business for years now, right? But I realized I had a name and credit to Kai Bax for coining it, okay? But essentially what a project period is, okay? It's a 3 to 4 month period for when you're making your offer on the front end to your clients, right? Now, in this project period, what you want to do, okay, is you want to be charging, instead of monthly, you want to take your monthly price, right? So let's say it's 3K a month, okay? And you want to turn that into a 3 to 4 month project period, right? So instead of selling it for 3K a month, instead you sell a 4-month program for 12K, right? And what this allows you to do, okay, is number one, you can downsell your payment plans if you get a legit price objection, right? So if a prospect just genuinely can't afford that 12K up front, you can just downsell them into payment plans, okay, that most of the time will still be more money up front than a typical monthly retainer would be, right? So for example, let's say the prospect can't afford the 12K up front, okay? You can downsell them, okay, into 6K and 6K, right? A lot of the times, your prospects are going to say yes to that, right? They'll say yes to that, okay? Let's say they can't afford that either, right? Your last resort can just be a 3/4 pay, which is what you would have pitched up front anyway, okay? You can have payment plans, okay? And in my recommendation, I wouldn't go any lower than what your typical 1 month retainer would be, okay? But because you're pitching more money, right, on the front end, a lot of times people are going to say yes to the 12K. They're going to say yes to the 6K and 6K, okay? And it allows you to get the average lifetime value of your customer sooner, okay? And we know what happens when we do that. It gives us more money to reinvest back in our acquisition, okay? The next point is that the client is essentially locked in for 3 to 4 months, okay, without you having to do one of those stupid lock-in contracts a lot of agency owners do, right? Which means it's easier to deliver results, okay? I mentioned that a lot of times for your service, it might take a month and a half, 2, 3 months for the returns to really be evident for the business that you're serving, right? If it takes you a month to actually do market research and figure out what's working, right? And do specific niche research on targeting, right? On the types of creatives you want to run for that specific business, right? Then how can you expect, okay, them to pay you month after month after month when a lot of the times they're going to be, oh, wait, he didn't get me the result on month number 1. I just paid him 3K this month and I got no result. I don't want to keep working with him. He's a scammer, right? That's what they're going to think. But when you instead pitch a project period, okay, they're essentially locking themselves in for 3 to 4 months because they know that's the duration of the program and they know that's the duration that it takes for them to get results. This also gives you the ability to make a much bolder guarantee on the front end because if you know that in a 4 month span, you can get someone 20 new clients, right? You can pitch that as part of your guarantee, right? But if instead you're billing monthly, okay, it's very hard to guarantee someone 20 clients in just 1 month, right? And it essentially allows the period, the window, right, that you need to actually get results for your clients and your fulfillment to be increased, right? Where instead of having to bill monthly, you're billing over a longer period cycle, right? That's the benefit of doing this, okay? And this project period, okay, has 3 different components. Number 1 is the upfront fee, like I said, okay? You want this to be an expensive upfront fee, right? You want it to be 3 to 4 times what you typically charge per month, okay? Again, a lot of the times people are going to say yes to this, okay? If they don't, then I'll go over exactly how you can handle that objection as well. But you also want to add some sort of rev share component, okay? And you want to add the rev share in there for a few reasons, okay? Number 1, it actually, a lot of the times, makes the business, okay, feel like your interests are aligned, right? If you're pitching someone a rev share, they're not going to oftentimes say something like, oh, well, why are you trying to get part of my business? Oftentimes, they're going to say, oh, great, so our interests are aligned, right? And to be clear, you want the rev share to be of the money that you add for them, right? So let's say you add an additional 30K on top of what they were already making per month, right? Then you want to take a rev share of the 30K, not of their bottom line, obviously, right? But a lot of times they're not going to be like, oh, wait, why are you taking money of what you add? They're going to think, oh, okay, because he has rev share, he has skin in the game. And he's actually incentivized to get me a result. And you actually pitching the rev share is going to make them think, wow, well, if he's pitching rev share, then he definitely gets results, right? Because it's almost implied that if you're taking part rev share, you're confident in the results that you're going to get them, okay? And you also want recurring revenue, right? Now, this is not something you're going to be pitching, right? I know I just went on a whole rant about how you don't want to do recurring revenue. But on the back end, right, after your project period, it's always good to increase your customer lifetime value as much as possible. So it's good then, right? If once they're an integral part of once that client essentially, right, is an integral part of your business, or rather your business is an integral part of the business that you're serving, it's very easy then to pitch recurring revenue, right? Because they're already using your services and it's very unlikely that they're going to leave you after that point. So let me actually show you some examples of what a pricing model can look like for a project period, right? So let's say you're charging $10,000 up front, okay? And you're also taking 15% of whatever bottom line revenue you add for 3 months after the installation of your systems, right? So let's say you have an ad system, or let's say you have a sales infrastructure that you're helping implement for your clients, okay? You can take 15% of whatever revenue you add to their business for a 3-month period after the installation of those systems, right? So what that might look like is if a business that you're serving is making 30K a month, okay, but you help them scale to 70K per month, right? You can take 15% of the 40K that you added for a 3-month time period, for example, right? Another example price, right? Maybe you're doing 8K up front, but you want to take a little bit more revenue. you can take 25% of the added bottom line revenue for 1 year. Okay, and that's kind of a longer time frame, right? I wouldn't recommend going that long, but you certainly can, right? If you don't want to charge that much money up front, especially if you're a beginner. Okay, you can also take something like $15,000 up front, right? And then 10% of added bottom line revenue for 4 months, right? But the two main things here, a large upfront fee, right? And you want this to be large. You want this to be at least 6K, okay? So that you can reinvest directly back into your own acquisition and get more lead flow, get more clients, get more case studies, and become more trusted in the market, right? It's a flywheel, okay? And also partially revenue, okay? Number one, because it shows that your interests are aligned. And number two, and I'll get into this in a second, it's actually a negotiation tactic and it gives you something to fall back on, right? Which leads me to my next point, the sequence of events for if your prospect just genuinely can't afford it. And this is gonna happen a fair bit, right? Because you're charging a super expensive price up front, you're gonna have a lot of prospects where it just genuinely doesn't fit into their budget, okay? And that's perfectly fine, okay? Because the way this is designed, and this is the reason why you wanna pitch a lot of money up front, you have a sequence of events, okay, that can still get you more money, right? LTV and in the front end than you would have just charging a normal retainer. So let me actually show you the sequence of events here. And side note, it's very important that you actually isolate that they really can't afford it, right? You want to make sure that it's not a smoke screen. You want to make sure it's a true price objection, okay? But if it is, you can take them through this sequence. So number one, you pitch the full price, right? So let's say it's a 12K offer, okay? You can pitch the 12K up front and then 15% of the bottom line revenue for the project period, right? For 3 to 4 months, okay? What I just went over. Number two, okay, is you can have payment plans that add up to the paid in full, right? So again, for the same 12K offer, you can do something like 4K, 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 right? A triple split, okay? And also the 15% of bottom line revenue for the project period, okay? Let's say that they just can't afford that either, right? Let's say that, they've got like 4K right now, but after that, they're not going to have any money. They don't have any active money coming into the business, so it's very unlikely they'll be able to pay the 4K for the next couple of months. So what you can do is you can actually do partial up front and then the rest based on performance, right? Where maybe you charge 4K up front, okay? But then you just take the $8,000 that's remaining, okay? When the client makes 8K from your program, right? Once they start seeing results from your program, right? Once you start making them some money, then they can just give you the first 8K that they make back, right? Along with 15% of the bottom line revenue, right? But let's say that they just can't do that either, right? Let's say they're just not comfortable with, being caught in a deal like that and they're like, my business is no longer going to be open if I have to owe you 12K, right? Then what you can do is you can lower the price but increase the rev share. Okay, this is a big part of the reason why you want the rev share there, because it can actually act as a negotiation tactic, right? So maybe, let's say they can't afford 12K, right? Maybe they can instead afford 8K or 6K or whatever it is, okay? Instead, what you can do, okay, is you can take 25% of the bottom line revenue, okay, for the project period, right? So instead of taking 12K and 15%, instead now you're taking 6K or 8K, but, okay, you're making up for that with the increase in rev share. Now, let's say they can't do that either, right? Let's say that not only is the price up front just too much for them right now, but also just giving that big piece of a pie in their business, right? They're already growing at a certain rate and they don't want to be giving a piece of the pie in that regard either. What you can then do, okay, is you can lower the price, but make them do something for you in return, right? And this is extremely, extremely important, right? If you lower the price, okay, but you do not get an increase in rev share, you still have to make the prospect feel like you got a fair deal there, right? You still have to make the prospect feel like you got what you wanted, okay? Because number one, you're gonna look like a cuck, right? If you just end up lowering your price, if you pitch someone at $12,000, okay, and you just end up, selling them for 6K, but not getting any concession, right? Not getting any sort of an increase in rev share, not getting anything from them in return, then they're gonna see you as low trust, and a lot of times you're gonna end up losing the deal. They're gonna think, well, if he could have just sold me for 6K, why would he do that? Why is he trying to take every last dollar from me? They're gonna not trust you, right? Which is why if you do lower your price, right? Let's say you lower the price and you can't manage to get a higher rev share deal, okay? You have to make them do something for you in return, right? So that might look like you charging $8,000 up front, still taking the same 15% of bottom line revenue, okay? But also recording a sit-down interview, talking with you about the results they got with your program that you can post on YouTube, right? A very low effort task, right? A task that in their minds is definitely worth it because they're getting a discount, right? But it's not necessarily about what you're getting. It's about the prospect feeling like you don't just lower your price for anyone. And if you do lower your price, they have to do something to make the deal worth for you. So with the sequence of events, right, it's very important, okay, that you truly figure out how much cash they have on hand, okay, and only progress to the next step if they truly can't afford the price that you're pitching, right? If they truly can't afford the 12K, only then do you want to move to a double or triple or quadruple split, right? If they truly don't have consistent money coming into their business where they can do a payment plan, only then do you want to do partial upfront and the rest based on performance, right? Only if they can't afford the upfront guaranteed cash, right? Only when they can't afford the guaranteed cash, right? Do you want to lower the price but increase the rev share? And only if they're in a position where they just really are not willing or able to do an increase in rev share along with a lower price, then you have to make them do something for you in return, right? It's super important that you do not just very easily jump between these two, right? You give pushback, you give resistance, and you make sure that it truly doesn't fit in their budget. But in case it doesn't, that's why you have this sequence of events. And you're going to find that by going through the sequence of events, you're often going to close at 60, 65, 70%. That's what I've seen in the industry with people that are doing project plans, right? That's what my close rate is around as well. So to recap, the outcome of doing this, right? The outcome of charging a lot of money up front, okay, and also getting rev share in the clients that you serve, okay, is this. Number one, you're going to have increase your customer LTV, right? Because we know industry average, most clients churn after 2 to 3 months, okay? But if you have a project plan, right, that adds up to 4 to 5, sometimes even 6 months of what your actual monthly retainer is, then you're able to increase your customer lifetime value, sometimes by 2x, right? Number two, okay, you're able to increase the amount of cash you're collecting up front, okay, which again allows you to put more money into the acquisition machine, get more leads, get more case studies, and become more trusted in the market because you'll have now better creatives, okay? And it will also allow you to maximize your close rate, okay? Because it gives you some fallback, right? It gives you some fallback because you're charging more money up front, which means you have more leeway, and you're also charging revenue share, which gives you leeway in that avenue as well, right? All of this leading to more money. So again, okay, stop with the 5K, 3K, 4K per month, and instead move to a project plan where you're charging a lump sum amount of money up front, okay, because it allows you to fall back on lower prices. It allows you to increase your customer lifetime value, and it will increase the amount of cash you can collect up front to put into your acquisition machine. Yo, so I hope you guys found that video valuable. If you did, and you're wanting to start selling your service for a lump sum amount of cash up front, then it's important to note that you need to create a product and an offer that's actually worth that super expensive price that you're selling it for. So if you're wanting to learn exactly how you can do that, then you can watch my free 40-minute training I made covering everything you need to know about creating a super strong product and a super strong offer that people are willing to pay you 10, 15, 20 grand for completely upfront.